Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Odd One Out. It's been a little bit since we made our last episode. We got a little bit to talk about today. Today's going to be a little twofer. Ashley's got some stuff that she feels really strong and confident of talking about, and I've got some stuff that I feel the same way of talking about. We're going to kind of let each other do their own thing. The other person may be filling a little bit every now and then, fill in the gap, or add some reaction. But without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Ashley, what would you like to present today?
Okay. So I will first read, this was a headline, and then I'll explain me looking into it, and that will bring us to some other issues. So the headline of this was, the Trump administration repealed federal statute prohibiting contractors from constructing segregated restaurants, waiting rooms, drinking fountains, etc. So I wanted to look into this because I'm like, what does this mean? Does this mean?
That's our dog. we have a herding dog that is very anxious to so many noises.
Of course it makes you wonder, like, what does this mean? Is segregation gonna start happening? Like, what does this mean? So I looked into it, and let me pull up some extra notes just so I tell you, the correct information. So basically, there was an executive order that was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1965. And it basically said that, any contractor, anyone that was providing goods, services, working with the federal government, they could not participate in segregation, basically. And this order was in the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which is a document used by agencies to write contracts for anyone providing goods or services to the federal government. So, like I said, and this clause was in there to say anyone working with the federal government agrees that they will not be segregating the employees. Well, that has now been repealed by the Trump administration in the name of getting rid of DEI. So I wanted to, first explain that, exactly what this all means. And I want to first say, let's not panic. We're not right now going back to segregated times. There are still laws in place, like the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are federal and state laws in place still against segregation. So I say that to say, don't panic. However, Colin recently posted about this on his page, and he had some comments saying, that won't happen, we won't go back to segregation. Well, I just, like I said, don't panic, but I also want to go to the other side of that and say, that's how these kind of things happen. They start with little things like this, and people say, that would never happen. We would never go back to that. They would never do that. And then they keep doing little things until, what do you know, we have places that are segregated again. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but I'm saying it is important to know that these things are happening, and it's important to speak out about it, because I think, it's not like, say, that was their goal. It's not like they're just going to come out and repeal every law against segregation. No, they're going to start doing little things like this, try to get it past people, to where people are like, if that won't happen, until eventually it does, because we have let these little things slide.
And it's like, what keeps us from going back? These things that we're repealing.
Right, exactly. So while it's not time to panic, it is a time to be aware that these things are happening. And like I said, it's time to be speaking out about these types of things happening, to prevent larger things from happening.
So, silence is compliance.
Right, exactly. So then that also brings me to, I wanted to talk a little bit about DEI. Because like I said, this has all been done in the name of erasing DEI. And it brings me, I just brought up how you had posted about this and some of the comments. It was very clear from some of the comments on your page, and it's just very clear in general, that people do not understand what DEI is. And it's not, I want to say it's not their fault, but it kind of is because they haven't educated themselves. But at the same time, they have been fed this idea that DEI is something negative, that DEI means hire this person because they're a woman, hire this person because they're a person of color, no matter what their qualifications are. I'm here to tell you that is not what DEI means, okay? DEI covers a lot of things. It does cover some things when it comes to hiring, but it's the complete opposite of what I just said. All that DEI does in regards to hiring for a job, it means that, say me, a woman, and Colin, a man, say we have the exact same qualifications and we've applied for a job. All DEI says is that I can't be rejected from the job just because I'm a woman. And they can't say, oh, they have the same qualifications, but we're going to pick Colin because he's a white man. That's what DEI is supposed to prevent from happening. Am I kind of making, I know you understand, but am I kind of making sense on that?
Yes, and I mean, and it's in direct response to, I'm just going to say 40%. I have no actual clue, so don't quote me on it, but like around 40% of the population is white, and about 20% of the population, therefore, are white men. And again, I'm just spitting stats out. I'm not actually nailing this on the head, but you got 20% of the population that somehow holds some of the most prominent positions, and it's just so top-heavy as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. And so it's all measures saying, look, what have we been getting wrong this whole time with trying to make the workforce represent the population? What have we been getting wrong? Oh, it's been discrimination. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's accidental discrimination just by somebody's nature. And putting laws in on the books that say, you can't do that, that helps further promote equality and equal opportunity. So.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I see, so much of arguments against DEI are talking about, oh, you need to be hired based on merit and based on your qualifications. 100%. That's what DEI says.
It takes two different candidates that are in the same ballpark, and it says, do not discriminate. That's literally what it says.
So if you, and I have, some other points that I'll get to, but I just want to quickly say, if you are someone who thinks of DEI negatively and you are on that thought process that someone's going to get hired just because they're a woman or just because they're a minority, if you hear anything, hear me ask you to try and rethink, because I promise you that is not what DEI is. I did find just a simple definition of DEI I would like to read, because it covers a lot of other things aside from just hiring policies. So DEI is any policy or practice designed to make people of various backgrounds feel welcome and ensure they have equal access and support to perform to the fullest of their abilities. So number one, I want to point out, it says people of various backgrounds. So it's not even saying, people of color or people of the LGBTQ community. It's talking about everyone. It's talking about the white men, the women, the black man, the black woman, the Native American. It's talking about everyone in all of your coworkers from different backgrounds, it's just talking about supporting them, supporting their cultures, working together regardless of who you are, who your background is. So wanted to point that out. Other things, like I said, it doesn't just have to do with hiring people. It's things like I said, to ensure they have equal access and support. I brought this up in one of our previous videos. If you're a mom who is breastfeeding, this ensures that you have access to a private room to pump for your baby. Ensures that if you've never breastfed or pumped before, you might not know this. You have to do it like every 3 hours. This ensures that you have that access.
It ensures that you're not punished for being a woman that just gave birth.
Exactly. It ensures that you have, because yes, you will need an extra time to go and pump. It ensures that you have that. If you're a mom who just had a baby, or a parent who just had a baby, and you need to take off work, ensuring that you still have a job if you just had a baby, that's DEI. If you're disabled and you need specific, I can't even think of some type of accommodation to make it easier for you to do your job because of your disability, that's DEI.
That's another thing. Yes, it's DEIA. They like to conveniently leave out the A, accessibility. Within the government,
yes.
Within literally the federal level, it's DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So they like to cutely, and they don't even spell out diversity, equity, and inclusion. They think they just make it 3 letters so you don't actually think about what they're blocking out.
Right.
And then they completely cut out the A part, the accessibility. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's so many things. I know I'm missing stuff because there's so many things, but diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's not only to do with hiring people of a diverse background. It has to do with employees you already have and ensuring that they have what they need to do their job, whatever their culture may be, whatever, like we said, if they have a disability, whatever their parental status may be. So it's
protections.
Yes. Protections, access, being, if someone has a culture or religion, and I'm not an expert on religions, but I think there are some religions where they need to pray at a certain time of day and things.
Islam.
So, someone might need an accommodation for that to be able to do what they need to do for their culture and their religion.
Yep.
That's DEI.
Yep.
And that's okay if they need to do that. That's okay if a mom needs to pump to feed her baby. It's okay if a woman is hired because she was the most qualified candidate. I don't really know. I hope that this is making sense, and I hope that somebody is listening who maybe had a negative attitude towards DEI, and I hope maybe that this is making a difference, because the point I want to make is that when DEI is being made out to be negative, you're not getting the full story, you're not getting the full information. And if you think that DEI is being abused and that someone's getting hired because they're this or that, I don't think that's right either. I haven't seen that happening. But I don't think that completely erasing DEI is the solution to that either. Even if that is happening somewhere, completely erasing DEI is not the answer, because now you have things like they're erasing the word woman,
female.
Yeah, like from websites, and
They're literally being instructed. There are, is it over 300 or 400 words that are being instructed to either be entirely avoid using or use as little as possible, and we're not making this up.
and it's, anyways, that's just it. That's not the answer. Erasing DEI isn't the answer. There's so many positive things that come from diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I hope that I have explained this and made sense and maybe helped you to think about it a little bit differently. So we can go ahead and go on to what you wanted to talk about.
Good job.
Thank you.
So, I thought it was the first time in history, but it's apparently the second time in history and the only time in history that a president has disobeyed a very clear federal court order. The last time and the only time that it ever happened before were not so good circumstances, and therefore kind of shows what it's like to defy the courts. It was Andrew Jackson, our 7th president, who was told as he was trying to start the March of Tears, you can't do that. It's unconstitutional. It's unlawful. You don't have the authority to do that. These are not your people. We don't have any kind of their own sovereign nation. These Indian nations.
You're talking about the Trail of Tears when
I said the March of Tears.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, the Trail of Tears.
That's what you were talking. Okay.
Yes.
So, and I didn't know that. So before he sent the Native Americans on the Trail of Tears, he was told he couldn't do that.
Yes, the federal court tried to strike him down and issued an order. You cannot do that. And President Jackson said, "Watch me. Hang on, Bubba. You need to wait, Bubba. Wait, Bubba." He wants to go outside and PLAY. But anyways, that really kind of goes to show what it looks like, or it's I think a rather interesting example, as that in a way is deportation as well.
Yeah.
Different kind of time period and different. It's like more of a conquest. This is the same kind of thing though. It's of the same ilk, and there's a few ways I want to break this down. The Trump administration has spun about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different ways of looking at this. They first said, well, we didn't get the order, and excuse me, let me set up the order.
Yeah, can you just explain what happened, what they did?
So, this is why I got hurt, by the way, folks. Trump enacted the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 that allows, it's only been used 3 different times in history. The War of 1812, World War I, World War II. Did you notice a theme there? War. Mm-hmm. It may also be used during times of incursion or invasion. They have loosely defined kind of all 3, really. They said that they are at war with gangs, Venezuelan gangs, that we are being invaded by Tren de Aragua. Or as Trump has said, Tren de Arguay.
So what is that? What is that act? What does that mean? What does it mean? What does it do?
What it means is that during times of war or invasion or incursion, that the government can deport even legal citizens, even fully legal citizens. The last time we did it was during World War II, when we were attacked by Pearl Harbor, and we imprisoned into working camps a bunch of Japanese American citizens. We deported many Japanese people in general. It's considered, and FDR is my favorite president of all time. I think he's the greatest president of all time, and I'm serious. And it's one of the most heinous acts ever done in presidential history, and FDR did it. It was during a time of heightened emotion, obviously, but hindsight's 20/20, and that was not the right thing to do, and that was honestly evil. We're not learning from history in this moment, so Trump is trying to say we're at war with Venezuelan gangs that we are being invaded by. Whenever he issued that order, what it allows you to do is deport without due process. Everybody that's deported under normal means is identified, verified that they are who we think that they are. What crimes have you committed? What's your status? They are looked at. They are given process before they are either kept here, they're given asylum process, green card process, deported, whatever have you, whatever that be. This act allows you literally, and this is what happened, to just round people up and take them on a plane right away. No due process whatsoever. There's already been, under normal deportation protocol under the Trump admin, there's already been U.S. citizens, total U.S.-born citizens. There was a 10-year-old girl who had just recovered from brain cancer, her 2 siblings, that were deported with their 2 illegal immigrant parents. So 3 U.S.-born citizens. There was a worry that there would be somebody who was not who the Trump admin thought it was. Lo and behold, we have at least one confirmed person, at least one, that was deported, who was a documented migrant undergoing asylum process, and this is from their lawyer. Their lawyer is the one who spoke up about all this happening and believes that they were rounded up because of their tattoos. That ICE had thought that these were Tren de Aragua or MS-13 tattoos. They weren't. And as Jordan Klepper, like one of my favorite comedians of the politics side, made a joke, if we deported everybody that looks kind of, scary and has scary-looking tattoos, who's going to go to New York Jets games? This is the kind of logic they're using to round up. You don't look right, so we're going to take you. And where did they take them? These Venezuelan gangs, who they thought were Venezuelan gang members? No, not Venezuela. El Salvador. We paid them $6 million to throw them in El Salvador prison and made a photo op out of it, where they are rushing in all the people deported, grabbing them by the hair and just throwing them around, and it's very...
And then shaving is that what we saw? They were shaving their heads?
Yes.
All kinds of things.
Might I remind you, there was at least one, completely innocent person there who is maybe Venezuelan. We don't know. We actually don't know any of these people to be certain. We don't know. We'll never know at this point. Can you imagine not being from El Salvador and not being an illegal immigrant, being a documented one who's undergoing process legally, doing all the right things, and you are in an El Salvadorian prison being tossed around having your head shaved? Like, it's making me emotional thinking about it. This is the world we're living in right now. The U.S. is doing this.
So
I was going to come back to it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to understand myself, too. So he used this act to deport these people. We don't even know if they were undocumented or not.
And a lot of them probably were, but yes, we have no clue for sure.
And sent them all to El Salvador, whether they're from El Salvador
and they're not. The admin themselves doesn't think they are.
But he was told he shouldn't do that.
Yes, and that's where I was going to come back to.
Okay.
Is that first there was a written order. First there was a verbal order issued before any of the planes took off. There were 3 different planes that we know had over 220 of these migrants. Before any of them had flown off, there was a verbal order saying, turn around right now. Do not go there. Do not. Mm-hmm. You're not able to use this act right now. We're not at war with Venezuela. That's what we'd have to be. Mm-hmm. We're not under invasion. I thought we closed the border, by the way, but that's just a side note. We're not currently under invasion. You're bending the terms of invasion.
Right.
This is not the legal term of invasion. This is just simply like a colloquial term, like you're invading my space kind of thing. It's like, no, like actual invasions or incursions.
Right.
None of that is happening. Mm-hmm. This is unconstitutional. These people need their habeas corpus. They need their due process. They are afforded that right, even if they're illegal immigrants. They are afforded that right within our country of ensuring who they are. So they issued a verbal order first. And then the planes took off. 2 of them had taken off, and before the last one took off, he issued, the judge did a written statement as well. So he had both a verbal and a written before that 3rd plane even took off, and then that one still left. And so like I was saying earlier, the Trump admin twisted it so many different ways. Well, we didn't receive the written order until we were already overseas in international waters. First of all, the order doesn't stop there. Mm-hmm. There's no imaginary jurisdiction for this order. They're just inventing stuff as they go along. Second, they then said, and Caroline Leavitt today echoed this, that a verbal order does not carry the same weight as a written order. That is blasphemously false. They both carry equal weight. And she was pushed back on this, and of course she dodged the question, got combative, mm-hmm. and just kind of brushed it off. But they both hold equal weight. Third, they said that the judge did not have any jurisdiction to say how a deportation should be carried out. it didn't. The judge didn't say how the deportation should be carried out. It said,
don't do it.
He said you
right.
It said specific. It wasn't even the deportation. It was this act. It was we're not at war right now. You cannot do anything with this act. So
Right.
anything that you're doing under this act, i.e., these deportations indirectly, it's
Right.
primarily this act that is not allowed. That's unconstitutional. Something else on the side, of course, and this is like both official White House statement written in words, echoed by Caroline Leavitt and said by Donald Trump. This is some radical left lunatic. That's the literal words that we're using today. The radical left lunatic judge that issued this order was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama. Newsflash: this judge was appointed by George W. Bush. So they're wrong on that too. And then you had the Chief Justice, which is essentially the tip top of the Supreme Court, Justice John Roberts, who also is a conservative judge, might I add. The Chief Justice never opens their mouth. It is shocking. And Laura Ingraham last night with Trump even said the same thing. She is extremely right. And she said, it's shocking that the judge did this. What do you think? The judge said, in response to Trump saying that this judge should be impeached for the decision, said, for 2 centuries, we have upheld the notion, the belief, that just because you disagree with the judge does not mean that they should be impeached. Now Trump says, he literally told Laura Ingraham, he didn't say my name, so, he's not talking about me. Who else is he talking about? What else are we talking about? So, we are literally finally in a constitutional crisis. I have not said that once. I've kept that in this whole time. I've been hearing the left toss it around a bunch. We are officially in a constitutional crisis in the sense that these checks and balances we have in place are no longer being respected. We officially have I can fully say this, that we have an authoritarian in office now who is ruling us, carrying out their own will and saying that they had some mass mandate. Totally defying court orders and just a lawless, unconstitutional administration. So, not good news. And we wondered if they would start abusing their power and ignoring the courts, and here we are. So. Well,
and I think that kind of goes along with what I was talking about earlier. Like, his supporters are probably like, that's not a big deal. Like, whatever. Again, that's how these kind of things start. He's now pushing boundaries. He has now pushed this boundary, and he's only going to keep going. And that's how these things happen. That's how people end up with an authoritarian government. I don't think they just take over one day and no, they start pushing boundaries and start, little by little. And it's starting, Yep. This might not be a big deal to you, but it should be that he is just doing what he wants, regardless of how our government is supposed to work.
Yeah, to further drive in your point, I think you said you laid it out very well there. To further prove her point, Hungary's Viktor Orban is the president. He completely twisted and bent the Constitution to remain in power. He did essentially what Trump wished he could have done in 2020, and that's a fact. I'm sorry. And so this stuff happens, and I'm gonna make it extreme here. Okay, don't think that I'm calling Trump Hitler. I'm not. Okay, but bottom line is Germany fell for it, so we need to recognize that.
Right.
Hitler did not start out as the ultimate leader. He did not start out as the top chain in command, totally running an authoritarian Nazi dictatorship. It was changes over time that just kept building and building and building, and the constant propaganda and disinformation pushed upon the people to justify their agenda. And actually, as I'm talking about this out loud right now, I've been on this channel talking about disinformation, and it's actually really scaring me talking about this topic right now. I'm not saying we're going towards Nazism, okay? I'm not saying we're going towards murdering those people, okay?
No, but it's a good point, though, because Hitler, he didn't just gain power and say, I'm going to start these concentration camps and kill all these people. It started out very, very small. It started with deporting some people. It started with let's they were deporting disabled people. Then they went for the Jews. It started
the enemy from within.
It started with if you were born here, you can stay. Well, no. Now if you're a Jew, even if you were born here, you have to leave. It just kept building and building and getting worse and worse, and that's exactly, yes, the point that I was trying to make, is that's how these things happen. We're not saying we're heading into the next Holocaust, but we're saying that is how these horrible things happen, because someone gets in power and little by little does these things and no one does anything about it, or not enough people fight against it.
And I mean, these authoritarian dictatorships, including Hitler in the past, have used radical language to brainwash, I'm sorry for lack of a better word, all of their supporters. Literally, verbatim, Hitler called the Jews the enemy from within.
Mm-hmm.
Trump called Democrats the enemy from within. Hitler said the Jews were poisoning the Jews were poisoning the blood of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Trump said migrants are poisoning the blood of this nation. I'm not making any of this up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, who knows where we end up? But all this is to completely radicalize and gain the support. There's a reason why Trump said that he could step out into Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, and he wouldn't lose a vote. It's because he's completely radicalized his base.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to people like us, and it's up to people like you, and it's up to people like you if you're on the right. And I appreciate you tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
To by the way, I miss the old Republican Party. I miss having two badass parties that could sit down together and say, hey, you're really trying hard. I'm trying hard. I think that you're acting in good faith. I'm acting in good faith. Let's work together. Let's, we have our differences on how finances and some social values should be handled, but we really love each other. We love America. Let's figure this out. Now we have two different sides of the spectrum. Democrats too. In my defense, I'm going to say in response and in seeing in reaction, we have two different groups that despise and hate each other. Let me ask you when that trend started. 2016. That's when it started. I'm sorry. I know Democrats and Republicans have always kind of pointed the finger at each other, but we used to work together.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican Party used to be highly respectable. I used to be a Republican. It used to be something you could work with, but here we are. So that's all that I had to say on that. I did kind of. I'm sorry. I do have to also sneak this in because this is really important, and this is just further to it. Elon Musk tweeted that Hitler, Stalin, and Mao did not kill millions of people, but that public servants did, the government workers, the military. He received intense backlash and deleted that within minutes. He also told the far-right AfD party, who is essentially the closest thing to the neo-Nazis that we have in Germany, he told that party in Germany, you need to let go of your past guilt. So, and I'm sorry, doing what he did twice, I first thought it was on accident. I don't think it was.
No, I don't think it was.
And then Steve Bannon did it too, a week or two later. So that's, that's how I'm done on all that.
Okay, I think we were just going to end with something a little bit.
Yes. I wish positive. That I could pick up the American flag right now and just, USAID is back, baby. We're back to taking care of people, vulnerable people.
Can you explain just kind of briefly how it's back?
Yes. So
sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to
that's okay. That's okay. I was really about to storm in there, like somebody on J6. Whoops, sorry. So what happened was USAID is a congressionally set part of the budget, a body that was set up by Congress. Every single budget that USAID would be involved in, Congress says, okay, how much do they get? Here's what they get, and then from there the committees within decide how they're going to spend it. But Congress still approves everything. They got the power of the purse, and the executive branch can't come in and just rip it away. Mm-hmm. USAID did start as an executive order, and therefore it could have been repealed if it stayed as an executive order because it was started by JFK. Mm-hmm. But it later became solidified, concrete in Congress. And I think it was the 90s whenever Congress made it officially a congressional body. Whenever they made it, hey, this is a really good thing that we're doing here. Let's make it a permanent body. Mm-hmm. So the executive branch can't just decide to just rip it. And so finally at the federal courts, and this will end up in the Supreme Court, it's not over yet, but the federal courts said, hey, this is unconstitutional. We need you to show up and come testify why you stripped it away. And actually, I'm getting my stuff mixed up right now. But that is because I was thinking about the federal workers. The guy didn't show up, and they got pissed, and the judge said, all right, well, then bring them all back. Mm-hmm. It is essentially what happened to USAID. They said, we need you to explain what's going on here. It's and then they deemed, hey, this is unconstitutional. So you need to put every bit of funding back. You need to bring back every single worker you fired. You need to bring back every single contract that you terminated. You need to bring back USAID as if you never touched it to begin with. And so, thanks to that, there's an estimated 1.65 million people that were going to die every year, according to conservative, Republican-leaning Wall Street Journal. They're the ones that predicted that. So it's not done yet. It still could be axed in the Supreme Court. But the greatest news that I can think of so far,
for right now,
yes,
is back.
We're back to taking care of people.
Yes.
Last night I was looking at pictures of USAID giving food supplies, giving HIV medication to the poorest people. Yep. These little babies that couldn't live on their own, couldn't do anything, and their mothers are sitting there holding them with the biggest joy in their face because a USAID American worker is sitting there feeding them nutrition-dense food. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry, Elon. I'm sorry that you have to lose sleep now as the world's richest man, knowing that the poorest, most vulnerable people on the planet are once again being helped by the USA. So that is some awesome news, and that's what makes me feel patriotic. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saving the world makes me feel patriotic. So
absolutely.
But that's the good news.
That was our good for the day to end with. Anything else, or want to close us out?
USA, we're taking it back. We're taking back our flag. We're taking back our patriotism. I'll calm down there. I'm so excited. So, in this dark time, there are still pieces of light, and you can be that light. So.
And I think, real quick, that's also, and like we said, we don't know what's going to happen. It's back for now. But I think it's good to keep in mind is that while this administration is trying to do all this wild stuff, it's not all going to stick. There are going to be things that, they can't do. But, we do still need to pay attention, as we said. But I think it's good to know that even though they're, trying to do all this evil stuff, it's not all going to turn out in their favor. So that's something good to keep in mind when hearing all of this crazy stuff every day.
I agree. Well done. Anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for listening. Hope you learned something. Hope we maybe got you to at least try to open your mind and think in a different way. And I've been tired, but I'm trying to get back and work on some new episodes. So we'll be back.
And another thing, last announcement is I will be planning a one-on-one debate. I had somebody who was interested. They decided against it, but they might have another friend that might be interested. So be on the lookout for that. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and odd one out.